All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 4th of September, 2024. Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. We're counting down the days. We are now on our second episode of the month of September. We got preseason hockey coming up in just 17 days from now, or 18 days from now. Flyers will open up the preseason on Sunday, the 22nd of September at 3 o'clock in D.C. against the Caps. We are now just 9 days away from the Flyers' first rookie game coming up on the 13th at the PPL Center in Allentown. That'll be a week from Friday and Saturday, by the way, which is fantastic. And we are now 37 days away from the 2024-25 season, if you can believe it. It is incredible that we're this close at this point. And in advance of training camp, in advance of rookie camp, in advance of that rookie game, the first preseason game, and the season dropping the puck in 37 days, I thought it'd be a good idea. You know, the one thing I hate about the offseason is that there's no hockey. So we have to come up with lists and topics, and it's a good time to take some inventory and all that. But in this episode, I decided to come up with the top 10 storylines of training camp 24-25. Camp Tortorella 24. These are the top storylines for me. They're not really in a particular order, although they're in a preferential order. Maybe not exact, but the first of my top 10 storylines of training camp is Kolosov. Now, that's because rookies report before veterans, so just from a timing standpoint, that's the first element. But when I was thinking of the top storylines of camp, Kolosov was the first storyline that popped into my head. Because I've talked about it a lot. You've got goaltending depth until you don't have goaltending depth. That can happen really fast. You're going to need 3 goalies at some point this season. I mean, hell, the Flyers went through 5 last season. They had Carter Hart, Sam Ersson, Cal Peterson, Felix Sandstrom, and Ivan Fedotov all played games for them last year. So you're going to need goalie depth. And especially right now, there's a lot of questions about the goaltending. Can Ersson handle carrying the load as a number one? Is Ivan Fedotov going to assimilate to the NHL? And if so, how quickly? So Kolosov reporting for camp is a big one. Now, we know the organization standpoint. We've heard Danny Briere talk about it. He's under contract. He needs to be at camp. They loaned him last year. They're not going to loan him again this year. They don't want to toll the contract. And now that essentially preseason and training camp's done for the KHL, and we haven't seen him pop up, I don't know if there's an assumption that he's coming, but there's certainly a hope that he's coming because he hasn't been playing elsewhere. So we'll see what the situation is with Alexei Kolosov. That's my first one. Let's keep it in the crease. My second storyline of training camp is Ivan Fedotov. You know, what is his preseason going to look like? He's been here all summer, which I think is very good. For a guy that needs to adjust to North America, he's had a good period of time to be able to do that, get a better grasp of the language, work on his game at the North American complex and the North American style. With a lot of NHL coaching influence, goaltending coaching influence. But I'm really interested to see Fedotov in camp. I don't think he'll be in rookie camp. He's technically not a rookie. But it'll be really interesting to see Fedotov in camp and Fedotov in the preseason. That'll be one of the storylines that I'm really keeping a close eye on. I always keep a close eye on goaltending no matter what. But given all the circumstances surrounding him and what it took to get him here and his age, the fact that he's 27, going to be 28 in season, have me very curious. Now, I can't go further than 3 without mentioning Matvei Michkov. I mean, what are the first impressions going to be of Matvei Michkov, both in practice and drills and scrimmages, in small area games, to what is it going to be like watching him in preseason games? I don't know that we see Matvei Michkov play in the rookie games against the Rangers up at the PPL Center. I have no inside information, but I would think they would hold him off until the regular preseason begins. And maybe the preseason opener at Wells Fargo Center. So we'll see. But obviously, Matvei Michkov's a huge story to training camp. Huge story to the preseason. Huge story this summer. And it's going to be a huge story all season long. And hopefully for many, many years to come. So I can't go beyond 3 without mentioning Matvei Michkov. The fourth one that popped into my mind, top 10 storylines of training camp, was can we see a surprise on the blue line where the Flyers really be put to a test? Can Emil Andre really put them to a test? He kind of put them to a test last year, but then he showed it was apparent he needed a season in the AHL to adjust to the North American game, the size and strength of the players, all of that. Well, he's had pretty much a year in the AHL. Can he put them to a test again on that left side? Now, he is eligible he is waiver exempt. Zamul is not. And Adam Schenning is not. And Ronnie Attard is not. So does that go into the part of the equation? Maybe. Does Bonk maybe put them to a little bit of a test? Could Bonk start the season with the Flyers? You know, we haven't seen it in a couple of years where you get that guy that can play up to 10 games in the NHL before you can send him back to junior. Could we see Bonk stick around for a few games? That, maybe. Bonk would have to have a really good camp. I think he's capable of it. I think he's surprised them with his development year to year, from his draft year through development camp this year. So could he put them to a little bit of a test? Maybe he could. I doubt it. I doubt he'd be a guy that's going to stick and stay this year. But he could get a game. That could really go a long way to kind of screwing my bold prediction that they won't play more than 9 defensemen this year. But still, we'll see if they can get to put to a bit of a test on that blue line and who's going to be on that blue line on the roster come opening night. Denver Barkey's another one that really intrigues me. He's another camp storyline. We know about Barkey's size and how he's diminutive in stature. He's not as small as you think, in all fairness. He is still slight. He needs to put on more muscle and needs to put on more weight. But he had a really big year last year, too, for a really good team, the London Knights. I really want to see him playing against this next level of talent after the year he had last year. It'll be a really good way to measure how he's come from year to year, preseason to preseason. I don't think Denver Barkey's going to make the team out of camp, but to me, it's a storyline. He's a guy I really want to watch because I think there's a lot there. And while we're talking about really young guys that we're really going to watch closely, obviously Jet LuChanko. Boy, this guy's so mature as a player already. As a person, he just turned 18, a week and a half ago. And we know about the speed and the skating. And, boy, he just thinks the game really well. I'm interested to see him in preseason games against other NHL players and with other NHL players. He may be one of those guys that even though he wasn't taken at the top of the first round, he may just have one of those shorter shelf lives in junior and get to the NHL quicker than people thought, which you wouldn't think would be the case considering how young he's the youngest player in his draft class. I mean, when he was drafted, he was 17, for goodness sake. Like I said, he just turned 18 a week and a half ago. But he's got a very mature game and a very mature head and manner about him as well. So he'll be a storyline to watch in camp for sure and how he performs against NHL players. The next one, I'll go from the young guys to the older guys. Well, one of them's older, Sean Couturier, and Jamie Drysdale, who are both coming off surgeries. What do they look like in camp? Do they look hindered or hampered in any way? Do they look limited in their movement, their explosiveness? Now, they're very different in the way they skate. Drysdale is a much more fluid skater than Sean Couturier. I'm not breaking any news there. But how does Coots look after, the second half he had last year and having some cleanup done in the offseason to the core? That's something I think that is going to be worth keeping an eye on. I've said already that I think that he doesn't get off to the start he got off to last year, but he also doesn't close the year like he did last year. So maybe it's a little bit more flipped around and evened out. We'll see. Drysdale, obviously, it's not about just getting healthy. It's about staying healthy. Well, it's about that for both of those players, in all honesty. But Couturier and Drysdale, two guys that we know, if they're healthy, they're going to be on the roster. Where does it look like their game is coming off some, core cleanup over the summer with a surgery? It's a big question. Let's keep it with a veteran player. Where's Scott Laughton playing? Who's Scott Laughton playing with? Is he playing center or is he playing wing? Is he playing center on the fourth line? Is Noah Cates on the wing then? These two got to go hand in hand. Who's Laughton playing with? Is Laughton playing in the top 9 or is he on the fourth line? Is Noah Cates in the top 9? Is Noah Cates on the fourth line? And who's in the middle and who's on the wing? I know one guy that's going to be on the wing, and that's Garnet Hathaway. But where's Laughton? Where does he fit? And where's Noah Cates? And where does he fit? And what about Nick Delarier? Do we worry about Nick Delarier? I'll be honest. I'm not going to say this to Nick Delarier's face because I'd be afraid to. But I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to be a 13th forward. He's going to get his games. There's going to be injuries. And he's going to get his games in certain situations. But where's Scott Laughton fit? Is it in the top 9? Is he a guy that moves up and down? But who does he go up into the top 9 for, and who comes down to the fourth line? I don't know. And last but not least, my 10th one is a bit of a forgotten guy. He had a big year 2 years ago in the AHL, 23 goals. And last year he really struggled. Never looked right in development camp, never looked right in training camp and preseason, and frankly just didn't have a good year with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Elliot Denoyer. I'll be interested to see if he can kind of rescue his arc of development. Because he looked like a guy, not that he was going to come into the NHL and play top 6, but he would look like a guy that would be a really solid fourth-line center that could give you a little bit of scoring, a little bit of offense every once in a while. And last year it just really went sideways for him. And I'm not sure why. Because, again, 2 years ago, he looked really good. But will the real Elliot Denoyer please stand up? Because I don't know which one it is. I don't know if 2 years ago was just a heater and he rode it, or last year was just a bad year and it's one and done. Or maybe the truth lies somewhere in the middle of those two. I don't know. But he's a guy that I'll be interested to watch. I'll be really interested to see where he is and if he can rescue his development. Because maybe that's what he needs. Maybe that's the mindset he needs to go in with. We'll see. I'm going to be interested to talk to him as well. Because I think sometimes as a player, you can learn more when things go sideways in a negative way than you do when you have a really positive year. You can learn a lot when you have a really good positive year and a good developmental step forward. But you can really learn a lot when you don't. What you didn't do. What you need to do more of. Sometimes those are even more kind of chock full of information that you need to know to be a professional. So Elliot Denoyer is another one. So there it is. That's my top 10 storylines going into camp. Kolosov, is he in? Is he going to be at camp? Fedotov in the preseason, how's he assimilate to the NHL? First impression of Matvei Michkov. You see me, I kind of get like a little bit of a smirk on my face. I can't wait to watch Michkov. Because when Lindros started with the Flyers, I remember it vividly. I was in college at the time. And I remember just the impact of going to games and watching this, at that time still unrefined, just raw talent and skill, and was like, man, this is just such a spectacle. I think they're very different players, but I think Michkov is kind of going to be that unrefined spectacle this year as well. Can we see a D surprise? Was also a storyline, whether that's Andre, Bonk, maybe Ginning, maybe Adder. We'll see. If one of those guys really steps up, does that necessitate a trade? I don't think they're trading a guy like Yegor Zamula. I think he's a big part of the comfort system for Matvei Michkov, too. So I think that's part of it. Denver Barkey at the next level after a great year with the London Knights. Jet LuChanko playing with and against NHL players. Couturier and Drysdale, how they rebound from their surgeries and how they look early in camp and through the preseason towards opening night. Elliot Denoye, what's the bounce from a rough year a season ago? And then who's Lawton playing with? Is he playing in the middle? Is Noah Cates playing wing? Is Noah Cates playing center? Is Noah Cates a fourth-line player? So those are my top 10 storylines. Love to hear yours as well. You can always send me an email, jason.myrtetus, MYRTETUS @gmail.com. You can send me a tweet or DM as well, @JasonMyrt. And you can always comment below here on the YouTube channel also. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Ring the bell. That way you'll be notified whenever new content is arriving, live content or content posted, because it's that time of year. We're going to start to be posting a lot of content around rookie camp, training camp, season, and everything else right here on the Flyers YouTube channel. So make sure, again, you hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell, and you'll get all that content as it is released. Everybody, enjoy your Wednesday. Can't wait for a week from Friday. Flyers rookie games versus the New York Rangers at the PPL Center. Friday and Saturday night. Hockey once again. Thank God. Everybody, have a great couple of days. We'll talk to you Friday on a brand new Flyers Daily.